Hi everyone, my name is Scott and I'm a runner. Welcome to the Run Scotty Run YouTube channel. So in this video, I wanted to do a wrap up, the final part of my series called 8 Marathons in 8 Months. If you haven't seen any of the other videos, I would strongly encourage you to go check out, I'll have a link to the playlist down below, so you can follow the journey of sort of how it happened. Today I've been jotting down notes as I go along over the last several days, a couple of weeks actually. And I just wanted in this video to sort of talk about my lessons learned and often relearned. Some of my takeaways, some of the things that went through my head to, motivate me, and thoughts about, my physical preparation and things like that. So anyway, let's get right into it. So these are not really in any order. Again, I do have some notes here, so I apologize if sometimes I look down and read from those, but these are, they're important things that I remembered. The event happened over 14 years ago, so some of the minute details I forgot, but hopefully I'll be able to cover the important things. So overall, because essentially from the time I started planning until I completed it, this event took, I guess, about a year, and it was definitely one of the most challenging yet rewarding things that I've ever done in my life. And it was a very positive, actually a very positive distraction for me for that time period. Although life, went on and there was all the other stresses of work and that sort of thing, when I had those moments to myself, and especially when I would be out on my training runs, I would visualize, all of these different marathons, what it was going to take to get me there, what it was going to take to get me through running 8 marathons in 8 months. So it was, from that standpoint, it was a very positive distraction, and it helped me, maintain my discipline. I'd never really felt that kind of discipline and motivation, obsession, maybe almost, I guess, since I had done my last Ironman triathlon in 2000. Because an Ironman, for me anyway, an Ironman was like a year. Essentially a year of preparation, and it was always kind of there in the background as something driving me forward, and keeping me motivated and visualizing how things were going to go. So that was a very positive thing for that year anyway. I also realized that sometimes in life, when things line up for me, take advantage of it. Don't let silly little doubts cause me to pass up an opportunity. I was in the right place geographically. I was in the right place with my job. I had great support from my bosses. It didn't take a lot of time away from my work, but I sort of had these weekends once a month where I was taking a day off or a couple of days off, and they were very, very supportive of that as well. And there were times where I would arrange to do early morning runs in the heat of the Oklahoma summer in preparation for the first marathon, and they were very understanding, to let me come into work, show up for work 15 minutes or a half an hour late. So and also I had the finances, I had my health, I was in pretty darn good shape, and thankfully I didn't get injured during training or through the challenge. So, there were times leading up, fear and common sense was entering in my head sometimes, and I'd be all excited one day, and then the next day I'd think, oh my gosh, I'd look at this thing and go, wow, this is crazy. But then, I realized that the opportunity is here now, so don't let that fear and don't let that doubt hold you back. So that's a big thing that I learned. The other thing is to turn negative talk into mental rocket fuel, if you want. You know, about, I would say 99%, 99.9% of the people around me were very, very supportive. You know, many of them didn't kind of understand what the heck I was doing. You know, wrote it off to midlife crisis or that crazy old Canadian. But you know, there's always, as there always is in life, there's that very, very small percentage who, sadly, we or I pay way too much attention to sometimes. You know, people would say things to me like, "Oh, you know, are you like, what are you, crazy? You know, oh, I could never do that. You know, or oh, you know, your knees are going to be completely shot. You're going to be in a wheelchair by the time you're 50." You know, and I just, I mean, as runners and people, you know, that maybe do some, what some people consider extreme things, I'm sure we've all heard those things, especially for me as a bigger guy. And what I did was you know, I just kind of, you know, laughed it off politely. But in my head, I would use those things to, as a kind of a mental fuel. And I would think, well, you know, just watch me. Just watch me. You know, if I fail, I'll fully accept it, but I don't plan on failing. So when at 8 months from now, or however long from now, when I have all these 8 marathons done, my performance will speak for itself, and I'm not gonna, you know, show up in your office and say, "Hey, look what I did." I'll just let the performance speak for itself. But I use those little negative comments. I turn those into positive, you know, mind fuel, you know, I don't know, I don't know if it was anger, but it was like, you know, that kind of in the back of my head thinking, yeah, well, I'll show you, you know, like, just watch me, watch this space. I better start ticking these off here before okay, I wish I could. I wish I could convince myself of this now, because I'm having a hard time dedicating myself to strength training the way that I should. But I found strength training in this endeavor, you know, even though it was essentially an endurance event, strength training was so important, and I didn't actually realize it until I, you know, got into the marathons, into the 8 marathons in 8 months. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I was very lucky. I had a gym, a base gym, Monday to Friday, right beside the office building where I worked, and where I lived in Norman. I had a beautiful gym about 3 blocks away. So I was able to really commit myself to a good 2 or 3 solid strength training sessions a week when I was preparing, and guaranteed that helped a lot with my injury prevention, you know, my durability as I was taxing my body. And, you know, sometimes when the going got tough out there, just having that extra, you know, that extra bit of strength, physical strength, really helped. So anyway, I'm hoping after I make this, I can get really motivated to focus even more on regular strength training, because there's no doubt that it helped me incredibly during this challenge. Okay, this is something that yeah, I guess I relearned, and you know, despite your age, sometimes you know, what's the definition of insanity? Repeating the same behavior over and over and expecting a different outcome each time. The Tulsa Marathon, I had done that one before, and they changed the route, and you know, I knew the route was changed, but I think I took one quick glance at it. I think they had you know, the sort of the 2D route where it went, and then they also had the elevation changes, and it didn't really, I just took a quick glimpse at it and thought, yeah, okay, whatever, and I didn't really pay that close attention to it. And then when I got there, and I didn't do any sort of course reconnaissance the day before when I arrived there, and you know, when I got out on the course and started realizing that, you know, it was a tougher course in areas with the hills and things like that, that I allowed that mentally to get into my head. And I think if I had it done, well, there's no doubt in my mind, if I had it done a better reconnaissance, even just, you know, paying attention to what the elevation profile was, and maybe even driven the course to familiarize myself with it, because I had run that course, the previous course I had run twice already. So anyway, that it made for a tougher day, and mentally I allowed it to get to me. So yeah, a lesson learned there. So now I pay, if I am going to do an in-person race, I pay much more attention to what the actual elevation profile is going to be like. I mean, obviously there's nothing I can do about it, but mentally up here, I can prepare myself and then maybe adjust. If I'm shooting for an overall finishing time, I can adjust my paces accordingly, so that I have the fuel in the tank to take on the challenges. Also, like at the Jacksonville, the breast cancer marathon in Jacksonville, it was considerably hotter than what I'd been training. 20 degrees, close to 20 degrees Fahrenheit warmer, and also a much higher humidity level. So I should have looked. I had the time before I left home, left Oklahoma, to look ahead to 3 or 4 days at the weather forecast. I wouldn't have done anything about the heat, but I probably would have selected, if I had been smart, I would have selected much lighter colors, like a white singlet, lighter colored shorts and hat. Just sometimes, even if you can just feel a couple of degrees cooler, it makes a huge difference, especially when you're out there many, many hours. So that was another lesson relearned, to also be prepared for the weather. So, okay, one thing it strengthened, really did strengthen in me once again. Years and years ago, before I did my first Ironman triathlon in 1995, I remember in the days leading up to it, I mean, an Ironman is a pretty significant challenge to take on. You're basically moving your body, 140 miles under its own power in less than 17 hours. And I remember, over coffee, I was talking to one of my buddies who had a couple of these under his belt, and he just said to me, he said, just stay within yourself. Run your own race. I know, I see a lot of people on Instagram and things like that say, comparison is the thief of joy, and maybe staying within myself was that mantra in the 90s, or at least what this guy told me. And that stuck with me for a long time. Like, don't worry what everybody else is around you is doing. I mean, when I did this 14 years ago, social media wasn't anywhere near what it was now. I don't think I might have been on Facebook, but that didn't affect me. But when you get to races and you see all these people around, just don't. I just stayed within myself. I told myself, okay, why are you here? I reminded myself every time, why are you here? You're here to do 8 marathons in 8 months. So even if you're feeling great, you feel like, wow, I could hammer off a 4.5 hour marathon today. That's not what I was there to do. I was there to try and run, 5 hours, because that seemed to work out well. I was able to recover. So just, stay within myself. Remember why I'm there and what I'm there to do, and not let anybody else's, what they're doing, interfere with that. So that's a very important takeaway. And I as I get older, I guess, especially since then, I mean, I guess I care a lot less about, what people that I don't know, obviously, think about me. I mean, they can look at me and judge me in whatever way they want. It doesn't bother me the way that it used to, and maybe that's, more maturity. But I would say that I'm definitely getting better at that. Just staying within myself, stay in my own lane, and remember why I'm there, and work hard at achieving my goals, not for myself, not for anybody else. Okay, sometimes, and this maybe is probably, a comment on life, is sometimes you're in a situation, or you're in an event like the breast cancer marathon. If you watch the video where I talked about that, I actually got pretty emotional. I mean, it's been almost 14 years ago since I did that, and in a lot of those memories of the event, why the event was there. The National Breast Cancer Memorial Marathon. Many of the people that I ran with, listening to their stories, there were many people that I ran with, chit-chatted with along the way, especially in the last half, as I was slowing down quite a bit, and there were lots of people around. Sometimes the event is bigger than what you're out there to do, and I just drank that in. Like I got to the point where I thought, okay, don't start having a pity party about the fact that you're not going to get your 5-hour goal. You have the opportunity to share with people, and in many of the reasons why I do these long distance events is not because I'm a masochist and I love pain, but the human spirit, to me, there is nothing sometimes more powerful or more magical than the human spirit. And when you see, when you're around people that are just average Joes and Janes just trying to live their lives, and they've overcome just the most incredible challenges that you just thank God every day that you don't have to deal with them, and yet they're still out there doing these things, these incredibly hard things. To me, it's I don't know, it just strikes me with such awe, but it also fills me with such strength and power. And I look at those people and I think, wow, if you can deal with what you're dealing with and have that kind of attitude, I say to myself, like, Scott, you need to pull up your big boy pants and get on with it, because these little things that you might whine and complain about sometimes are not, they're not important, really. And I think that, again, as I get older, and I'm blessed and I'm grateful that I can still go out and run, I think that even more. I see people that are close to my age that are, they're out walking, and but many of them, I see people, they have to walk with canes or maybe a walker, things like that. And I think to myself, like, you really truly are blessed that you can still do what you want to do. But anyway, enough of my preaching. But sometimes you just need to, when you realize you're in a situation like that, or I shouldn't preach to you, I'm sorry, but I need to keep reminding myself that when I'm in a situation like that, like sometimes, you're not going to get that stuff off YouTube, or you're not going to get that stuff off social media. When it's there and you're talking to those people and you're sharing, and they're sharing their story and their spirit with you, like I just need to absorb all of that energy and all of that strength, because it's something, to me anyway, it's something just so incredible that you just can't get anywhere else. Anyway, okay. Marathons are hard. No surprise there. And the thing with this challenge is that I knew, again, I guess I don't consider myself a masochist, but as each event went along, as I'm standing there at the start line, I knew, I kind of, in my head, I knew, like, okay, the pain is out there. The pain cave is waiting for you. It's out there on the road somewhere. The finish line is 26.2 miles away. And this is gonna hurt at some point in time. So, the better physically prepared, the better mentally prepared I was, the pain cave would just be a little bit further down the road. And knowing that, accepting that it was going to be there. It was not going to be easy at some point in time, and maybe many times, many little times throughout the marathon, each marathon, it was going to hurt, and I kind of prepared myself for that. And then when I got, when I got to that point, when I got to that, you're in the pain cave, you're riding the struggle bus, whatever, however, it works for you. I would just say to myself, okay, you're there, dude. You're there. Now, what are you going to do? And lots of times I worked hard at just getting out of my head and not, because lots of times you'll for me anyway, I'll have all these little noises, all these little, I'm focusing on every little thing, and essentially what I'm doing anyway in my situation lots of times when I allow that to happen is I'm looking for little excuses. I'm looking for little rationalizations to stop or to, whatever. And when I get to that point, when it really starts to hurt, I try and get out of my own head, and then I internalize and I focus on my body, and I do, these sort of like a head to toe check. Okay, like, okay, you're still okay. Your head's not, you don't feel dizzy. You're not, you're not going to have a stroke or heat stroke or anything. I know that sounds drastic, and then I just, kind of run down my body and, I do different little things. Okay. Keep your back straight, relax your shoulders, relax your arms, and I just would do those little things. And I might do that several times, and I make lots of little deals with myself, as I go through these things. It's like for me, it's just a big internal negotiation to say, okay, the prize is out there. The prize is the finish line. How bad do you want that prize? What are you going to do to get there? Yeah. But it toughened me, and I'm very grateful for that. It toughened me. And I find now as I'm older, sadly, I wish, when I was in my 20s and 30s that I had the mental toughness that I do now. I'm not saying that I'm a super mentally tough. I'm not a David Goggins or one of these other kind of guys, but my mental toughness is certainly, or my ability to get out of my head and just realize that, okay, you've been here many times before. Your body is capable of far more than you need to. You just need to make sure your mind doesn't tell your body, oh, it's okay to stop. Anyway, I guess maybe I rambled there a little bit, but it did really, really help me that way. And I think I still think back on it sometimes, when I'm out on a long run, or especially during this pandemic. I've run a lot of virtual half marathons and a couple of full marathons, and when you have nobody else around that's doing the same thing as you, the only people you see out there is people out walking their dogs or going to Starbucks or whatever. None of them know, they don't care. It's just you out there, alone with your thoughts and your body and the pain cave. So anyway, so okay, what I learned, especially as this thing was going along and towards the end, I was blown away by how incredibly adaptable the human body and the human mind, at least mine, was. As I pushed myself to places that I hadn't been, with the number of miles and the number of times visits to the pain cave that I had to make with all these 8 marathons, I slowly came to the realization, like something within me, maybe in my mind or my body or somehow how they were connected, is, that it was like they said, okay, for some reason, this is the new us. This is what we're doing now. So we need to adapt. And it became incredible how that happened. And if you read, if you read or listen to any of Dean Karnazes talk about when he ran his 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days, and other people who have done incredible long day after day after day endurance events, they will kind of say this, similar things. It was like as they went on, they actually felt stronger, because the body and the mind said, realized, okay, this is the new thing that we're doing. We're not going to be comfortable anymore. We're going to be uncomfortable. So, but we want to be comfortable. So let's adapt. Let's adapt and make this thing happen. So, yeah, that was a real, and I wish I could have kept going, actually, as strange as that sounds, maybe I almost wish I could have kept going and just kept riding that wave. Actually, this feeds into the next point. I felt what I learned was 2 weeks between marathons was probably too short, especially for me, because the 2 weeks off came between the 6th and the 7th marathon. So I'd already had quite a bit of accumulation of wear and tear and running under my belt. So that was tough. And then actually between the 7th and the 8th marathon, I had 6 weeks off, and that was almost too much. I started to, I don't know, maybe if I started to lose focus, or I was maybe resting on my laurels a little bit. And so 4 weeks for me anyway. If I could have kept going, I had a lot going on after the last marathon. I had to prepare to move back to Canada. I was retiring from the Air Force, moving back into my house. There was, I didn't, but I almost felt that if I had kept going and did a marathon every 4 weeks, I don't know how long I could have kept going, but it was almost like my body wanted that, and my mind and my body wanted to do that. So that was a very interesting after effect. And I don't know, I'm not saying maybe that I'm going to start get into shape and start running a marathon every month, but there are some other challenges that I'm considering maybe for the new year. But actually, I should have probably started with this one, because this might be the only lesson learned. But this is kind of a funny one for me. Well, actually, I think it makes sense though. Without a doubt, for me, having a breakfast after a marathon or the next morning after a marathon, like just treating yourself while I lived in the States, at Cracker Barrel, IHOP, or Denny's, that's a winner. That's #1 recovery tool. But you know what? It's the more that I got thinking about it, it's one of those things that, sometimes it's a mental strategy when you're having all these little challenges is, think of like little rewards for yourself. Maybe it's something as simple as, you're going to take a nice hot Epsom salts bath, or maybe after a race, you're going to treat yourself to a full-on massage, to help your muscles recover. For me, these, thinking about having these, breakfasts after the race or the next day, especially when you're out there running and you're eating gels and you're drinking Gatorade, all these sweet, sugary things. Just the thought of that first mouthful of, nice, savory, salty bacon or sausage or whatever. It sometimes it was just that little thing that I needed to flick a switch. So, I think it's important when you're doing, these challenges, and even just during your training, is to, reward yourself. I wouldn't say, reward yourself every single day. I certainly couldn't afford to have, a big breakfast after every run. But, when you have when you have a dream and you have a goal and you accomplish that goal, like maybe, whatever, something that, you can look forward to, or that can help you get through those tough times when you're doing that run, or that long run, or that race. Because to me, it was really important. And I think thinking about those yummy breakfasts at Cracker Barrel, Denny's, or IHOP got me through quite a few tough moments. Okay, so I think that's about all I can think of for now, folks. Again, if you've followed through this series, I very much appreciate your time. I hope that you found it interesting, maybe even a little bit entertaining and inspirational. You know, I'm just an average guy at the end of the day, and you know, I do strive sometimes to do above average things. I don't always succeed, but you know, I keep trying and I keep working hard. And this, like I said, this 8 marathons in 8 months was definitely one of the most challenging, physically and mentally challenging things I've ever done in my life. But in the long term, it was also very, very rewarding, and I grew a lot mentally and spiritually from the experience. You know, sometimes just this last note I jotted down here. If you have a dream and you want it bad enough to come true, you will get it done. You know, if it takes hard work, there's no doubt it takes hard work and it takes sacrifice. And sometimes you just have to take on the fear, you know, like, oh, I know this is going to hurt or it's going to be challenging. And, you know, I'm going to have to go out and run when it's hot or when it's cold or when it's raining, you know, when I'd far rather just pour myself another cup of coffee and, you know, watch a YouTube video or something. You know, it's worth it. You know, when you get to that finish line, for me anyway, when I get close to that finish line, a lot of things that run through my head is all of the sacrifices that I've made to get there. Like all of those times that I just did not want to go running, the times that I just, you know, it was tough and I didn't feel that great and the weather was terrible or whatever. And all of those, you know, those sacrifices that I made during the race and the hurt and the doubt and the, you know, because when you get to that finish line, when I get to that finish line anyway, all of that emotion comes rushing, and you know, and I realize like, okay, despite all of the hard stuff that you had to do, you finished this thing. So yeah, so think if you know you're doing something hard, it doesn't have to necessarily be running. Just as you get close to accomplishing that dream and accomplishing that goal, you know, try and think back on all of those really hard things and all those little sacrifices that you had to make. And then when the goal actually happens, at least for me, it is so much more satisfying. So yeah, you can do hard things. We can all do hard things. Just get out there and you know, if you really want, there's something you want to do, just get out there and give it a try. The worst thing that can happen is that you fail. I mean, short of, you know, please don't go out and do something that's going to hurt yourself, but you just never know. And sometimes from falling down, you know, getting back up, it's not what you do when you fall down, it's what you do when you get back up. I mean, I know I'm stealing that from somebody else, but it's true. In my experience, it's very true. So once again, I hope you found this series interesting. You know, please consider giving this video a like if you like the content. Subscribe to my channel will be much appreciated. I thank you very, very much for your time and your patience in me rambling on about this experience that I had. Remember that no matter how big you are, how old you are, your shape, your size, how far you run, or how fast you run, if you run, you are a runner. I wish you all the best in your future running adventures, and I hope to see you soon in future videos. Take care.